Apple's WWDC Keynote Reaction, Part 1. This is MacVoices. MacVoices is supported by HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Go to hellofresh.com/MacVoices16 and use code MacVoices16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Today's MacVoices is supported by Kolide. Kolide ensures only secure devices can access your cloud apps. It's zero trust, tailor-made for Okta. Book a demo today at kolide.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is a special MacVoices live session that we did just a few hours after Apple finished up its WWDC Keynote and Developer State of the Union. Because there's so much stuff here that we wanted to try to get it out to you, at least our initial reactions, as quickly as we could, and then follow up a little bit later. We doing two MacVoices live sessions, depending on how you look at it. This one is the first one, recorded on June 5th, and it was done live on YouTube as usual with members of our regular panel. We're going to do another one on June 6th, our regular show night, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. So if you're hearing or seeing this before that time, you're welcome to join us for the second part of our WWDC Keynote reactions at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. You can get in the chat, talk to each other, talk to us. We'd love to know what you're thinking. We have a whole lot more than was talked about here tonight on this first session, just because there was so much in this particular keynote. So also in the interest of getting this out to you, I'm going to forgo some of the usual editing. We decided to skip over some of our usual introductions and just get right to it, right to the meat of the situation. So if you are seeing this in time, join us on Tuesday night, Eastern Time, for our second keynote reaction panel. And if not, you will get that also in the feeds following up very quickly to this one, just as soon as we can get it out to you. So with that, let's go. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, this is a special MacVoices live episode. We're recording this Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, just a few hours after Apple finished up the keynote announcements and the State of the Union for the developers. It was a packed full keynote. So what we're doing is we're going to do about an hour here now. Then we're going to do another hour tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are, in the usual MacVoices live time slot. But we wanted to at least get some initial reactions out to you and give you a chance to join us in the chat room and give us some of your reactions. Because of the packed nature of things and with the fact that we want to keep it moving, I'm going to dispense with the usual introductions. You probably know this panel by now. If not, I'll try to drop in some lower thirds at some point and also refer you to the show notes. So with that, I'm just going to dive in and say thank you all for coming. It feels like it's been a long day. I feel exhausted, and I didn't even give a keynote, but I'm tired. What I thought we might start off with, excuse me, the first half hour, give or take here, is talk about everything but the Vision Pro, because there's a lot here already. And the other caveat I'm going to say is, let's talk about things that matter to you. What things caught your eye that you might want to purchase or that are coming out relatively soon, or just something that you thought was really cool? So who wants to dive into with those caveats? Wow. Okay, Mark, you're up.
Okay, so lots of sexy hardware, not in the market for that. I jumped to Safari improvements. I think the idea of profiles where you can have separate cookies and separate settings. I think that will be a really useful thing. I've been thinking, why doesn't it have a browser like that for about the past 12 or 15 months? And then the other ability they have to make an app, there used to be an app, I think it was called Liquid or something. I lost track of it when I moved to Apple Silicon Mac. so that you can make sort of a dedicated, what looks like a dedicated browser for specific websites. Both of those will be really useful to me in terms of improvements. Back to you. And they're free.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that you jump right out of the gate at that, because I know some of those really caught my attention too. Especially the one where you can turn a website into an app, which in theory is kind of what you've been doing now on the iPhone recently. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like that a lot. Webb, I think your hand was second.
I was going to say that we finally our long nightmare is over. There's a new Mac Pro, and we've been waiting for it. I don't know if there's anything that just blew me away, but I bought a Studio last year, so I'm pretty much set for hardware for me. But if you remember, before I got the Studio, I was using the trash can Mac. So anyway, I was excited to see it. It's way out of my league for anything that I need to do, but I could see for somebody who's a audio or video professional and having that excess capacity could be very helpful to them. So we finally got a Mac Pro.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And it's a Pro. I mean, this is not a compromised machine. In fact, I haven't seen anything so far written up that says that there were any compromises made. This is just a flat out beast. Ben, you were I don't know what you were doing. You were doing one of these.
Yeah. I have to disagree with it not being compromised. It is a very, very good machine for audio and video engineers. It does everything that the Mac Studio did not. However, there are a lot of use cases of the current Mac Pro that this Mac Pro simply does not have the power and RAM capacity to replace.
In what way, though?
Yeah,
it literally goes from 1.5 terabytes of replaceable RAM to a 192 gigabytes.
Okay.
There is no way to replace or upgrade the GPU or the CPU, which are very good in the Mac Studio, but there are a lot of Windows and Linux workstations that are going to be significantly more powerful.
But here's the thing, though, is that because I've tried to help a lot of people with a lot of different use cases transition from Intel to Apple Silicon, using, doing all different kinds of things, using all different kinds of programs to get there. I haven't yet found anything where the number on the memory was the thing that was limiting. Like, oh, well, this says it won't run if you don't have X gigabytes of memory. Like, I haven't seen any of that with the Apple Silicon transition, because for some reason, and it may just be that I don't work with people who are doing enough specifically scientific things, but I work with a lot of people who do a lot of audio production, a lot of video production, professional studio folks, and lots of people doing, like I said, lots of different things. And I still haven't found anything where it says my Intel machine needs this amount of memory, and you gave me this new computer that's Apple Silicon that has way less than that, and it's not working. Like, I have yet to run into that in a wide variety of upgrade scenarios. So that's why I'm curious, because I haven't seen anybody say, due to the fact that I cannot hit this magical number, this absolutely does not work for me, because the processing is so different. Like, that's been the reason I've presumed that it's just been working for everybody, is that because of the way the throughput is managed, which is so much different when it's shooting stuff out to memory, shooting stuff out to scratch disk or whatever, that it hasn't been a problem. And I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that, but I just haven't seen anybody say this simply doesn't work with Apple Silicon. So that's why
Ben,
That's why I wanted to know if you had one, because I haven't seen.
Ben, I'm with her. In fact, I just had a conversation with someone, ironically, this week, who said that the 16 gigs is not enough, but when you start talking 192 gigs, I mean, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not enough for us. For the vast majority of people, it's going to be more than enough. It has the PCI expansion that for, say, someone running a recording studio is going to need. However, there are some very high-end scientific tasks that need the RAM, that need the raw GPU speed. And in those specific use cases, this does not have the raw horsepower that the 2019 does. I mean, it could be that that is so small of a use case that it just wasn't worth Apple's time to serve those users anymore.
Well, I would say that I understand everything you're saying, but let's wait until we actually see people run benchmarks on it, because I think the improvements in terms of caching, in terms of memory and SSD on die, that's a dramatic improvement in performance relative to the Intel architecture. So let's wait and see what the actual performance is. But having said that, I still acknowledge your point that no matter how, assuming it was equal or assuming it's faster as they indicated, there's still going to be use cases that need way more hardware and performance, and that's the reality of demanding a very sophisticated computer world we're in, and Apple's just not going to be able to get all of those people.
And I'm not sure that anybody should, unless you're going to build give someone the option to build a machine and cobble things together, and then that comes with its own set of issues. Yeah. Jim's been sitting up here waiting patiently with his hand raised. So the man, I recognize the man in the blazing pink jacket. Man in the blazing pink jacket is muted. Yes.
Yeah. I'm saying I'm muted, and of course you can't hear that either. Yeah. One thing I noticed right away about this announcement, I mean, this has been anticipated for two years, right? Like, how are they going to do the Mac Pro and match, what the 2019 was? And, that's been hotly discussed on our show, many other shows, blog posts. And now suddenly, Apple does the bare minimum above just issuing a press release. It's like, oh yeah, here's the Mac Pro. Moving on. And I kind of suspect that is because of what Ben said, that, there are going to be people that are going to be sorely disappointed about this, and that it's not matching. And so, they're just kind of like, let's bury this. And, we've got a ton of good news here. And we'll just bury this, and hopefully nobody will notice. I do think that, the number of people that really need the beyond 192 is probably extremely small. I'm sure Apple has really good statistics on, what's out there. And, we may well be talking about just a few hundred customers. So, and I think it's not a question of Apple blowing them off or, whatnot. The reason, at least in the developer community, why we were so all, I certainly was fascinated to see what happened was, how are they going to do this? The architecture of the Apple Silicon just really doesn't allow for that kind of expansion. So are they going to come up with some completely re-architected, scheme for these few hundred customers? And the answer is no. The answer is, sorry, this is not economically feasible. that's probably the right answer. I mean, a lot of those people are probably, buying other Intel machines anyway, and they still can do that. But
it's also entirely possible those users can't do anything with an Apple Silicon machine anyway, because if they're trying to access that level of horsepower, they can't emulate. Like, the emulator won't do what they need. And the people who built these for Intel machines 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago aren't interested in trying to update to go to some new mystery architecture that Apple puts out. So those people may, even if this machine shipped with the exact same amount of memory as the 2019 cheese grater, it is entirely possible the 2023 cheese grater, which I believe to be the only time we ever had something name checked for a product announcement in a previous event from Apple before we actually saw it, is that they may not be able to do this specific group of people may not be able to do anything with that anyway, by virtue of it being a non-Intel processor.
Great point.
I think I disagree. I think it's really unlikely. It's 2023. Nobody's writing an assembly code anymore. Porting between architectures is like that. Nobody's using that kind of application in some.
Bothered.
It's not a bother. It's
it's a bother. Even if you have to go check a box, it's an additional step that some people don't do. As all of us on this panel know, because every one of us, if I ask every one of you, everyone has an app that is something that didn't make it from 68K to PowerPC, that didn't make it from PowerPC to Intel, that didn't make it from Intel to Apple Silicon. There's always somebody that goes, I don't feel like checking that box. And so the app doesn't work anymore. The end.
People that are buying $60,000 computers, they can check a box. And again, I think, like I say, it's probably only a few hundred customers. So, that's where, if there was a porting problem of some tool that they were using, those people making the tools are also looking and saying, but, it's whatever they're doing. If they were running a Mac app, it would be what you're saying could be true if it was a Windows app or a Linux app. But they were already running apps that ran on Mac OS, and apps that run on Mac OS, you check a box, you're done.
So I'm going to take us in another direction, just because we're talking about a very, very small subset of customers that this may not address. Let's talk about a lot of customers that this does address, with a ridiculous amount of Thunderbolt ports, with expansion slots. Finally, this answers a lot of the criticisms that came on with the trash can Mac, and as the trash can Mac was not deemed a successor to the Mac Pro. And whether you agree with that or not, that's the way that it ended up being viewed, because there was all this expansion that it could not do, or had very limited options. This device looks like it has a lot more of that return to, I can build this in and connect pretty much anything that is out there and make use of it.
Well, that's what the 2019 machine did. So now they have both. I mean, the Mac Studio is basically a trash can, except it's not in that shape. Mm-hmm. And this Mac Pro, it looks like it's basically the same guts as the Mac Studio, but they put it in a chassis where you can, plug more boards and ports into it. But the internals of it are the same as the Mac Studio.
Eric, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, and it's good because the internals are almost the same, and for a whole lot of people that don't need all the extra stuff, you get all the power without paying the extra $2,000.
And if you need a lot of stuff, you still have all those Thunderbolt ports to connect.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, Ben.
Well, the Studio has quite a few Thunderbolt ports too. Not as many, but
yeah. With those extra Thunderbolt ports and PCIe slots, I suspect there's probably an additional controller in there that has those additional PCIe lanes, probably on the motherboard. Well, it'd have to be on the motherboard, but that
Aren't those
probably
lanes
is
on the
one of
Apple Silicon chip? I think they're on the chip itself.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, it has a lot of PCIe lanes on that just don't exist on the Mac Studio. I mean, we're gonna have to have someone like ours go in and find out exactly what's in that SoC.
But yeah, but underlining Ben, you know, I noted during the presentation, I think it was a woman who was presenting at that point, near the end in the wrap up, you know, she really underscored that, yes, you know, I forget the exact words she was using, but it's to the point, yes, it's, you know, PCI and has, you know, lots of lanes, so it's going to be very high performance.
Brittany, I want to take us to the MacBook Air. I don't know about anybody else's reaction. When they started talking about the thinness, I thought, oh, no, not again, please, not again. But this looks like a pretty decent little machine.
Yep. I would agree.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
I have some thoughts on that.
Jump in, Dave.
The 15-inch was a nice, good sweet spot because you know, everybody had the 13-inch, and I just got the 13-inch, so it's a really nice machine. 18 hours of battery life, that's pretty impressive. I think that really stood out for what I saw. Yeah, it's thin, but that's great. But it's got the bigger screen. But I think for those who have the M1 MacBook Air or the M2 MacBook Air, I don't know if there's any compelling reason to upgrade. It is a nice size screen, but it does have the M2 processor, which is the same in the 13-inch. So there's really no difference other than really the screen size. But beyond that, yeah, they spouted the 6-speaker sound system, and I'm sure it sounds really good. But you can't max it out at 24 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. So if you really need to have that ton of storage, but the base price $12.99, I think, was a very, very good sweet spot when it comes to that size. It's going to really be a competitor to its PC. It's comparing competitive PC, only because that's pretty much the sweet spot for screens when it comes to laptops these days. And I can see Apple's going to sell these quite well. In education, they give an education discount, so for the education market for $11.99, and then $12.99 for the regular price on it. So, and 8 gigs of RAM.
Why is it an Air? This is the part that baffles me. Why is it an Air? Give me a new 15-inch machine that doesn't cost as much, and that's great. But why is it an Air?
I think, Kelly, because it only has 2 Thunderbolt ports.
Right.
And no fan.
Am I the only person who remembers the first Air? The one that Steve pulled out
Yes,
of the manila envelope?
Yes, you are. That's
I know. I owned one.
My iPod Nano shirt and I are the only people who remember this.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the reason that I'm asking, because the whole point of the Air initially was to be a sidekick. It was an ancillary machine. It was the thing that you took with you, because there wasn't an iPad yet. And it was meant to be if you have lighter weight computing needs, technological honesty, the thing I tell you about all the time, then this could be a great machine for you. Otherwise, it came in an 11-inch and a 13-inch. And everyone I know who bought the little ones because they were all guys, they decided they were the Air Club for men, which I thought was very funny. And that machine, the point of that machine was you take it back and then you do your actual stuff on an iMac mini, a big old previous cheese grater, whatever it was you had a different computer that was where you sat and did your stuff. And then you had this one for the occasional, I'm going to a conference, I'm going to a coffee shop, I am taking notes in meetings, whatever. And so to have it be the big girl machine, but have it also be called an Air is very odd to me. It just seems like another weird branding thing from Apple.
It's a lot lighter than the 16-inch.
Well, yeah.
The thing about language, though, is it changes. A phone used to be a thing that you made phone calls on.
Well,
You
I mean,
can
yeah.
choose to make a phone call on a phone now, but you may not also. And I just think people got really comfortable with that meaning not pro, and that was the consumer default device. And so Apple just said, okay, fine, this is what you want, this is what you get.
It sounds like crazy. And I'll say that it does have comparisons. It has comparisons. I can firsthand compare it to it. I have an M2 MacBook Air. I have an M1 Pro 16-inch MacBook Pro. And yes, I'm on that one right now. That's my main daily driver that I do here. But I've been using this Air a lot, and I am really liking it because I take it out on the road. I'm out out and about and be able to pull that thing out, and it's so lightweight, but you're still getting the same power that I don't notice much difference. So I think that's what I kind of tend to agree with you with a companion device, but I think this is also a device that's a full-time device. And Mark made the point of the lower price point. The 14-inch MacBook Pro starts at $2,000. This big boy I've got was almost $3,000. So
right. I'm just saying it didn't have to be an Air. Like, I don't think of a 15-inch screen and Air as the same product
they're setting
category.
Precedents.
So it's weird. That's all.
But now it is the same category. And Kelly, I agree with what the Air was originally supposed to be, but I don't think that's the way people received it or used it, because most people don't have multiple laptops laying around or multiple machines.
Right. But people also didn't need, like, a lot of people don't need any more than an Air would have given them at the time either. Like, that's why a lot of people's upgrade from whatever old computer they have, be it Apple or be it not, can be an iPad. If you're looking at the occasional web page and reading your email, and maybe you bank online and you have a social media account or two, then you don't need more than an iPad. And lots of people have upgraded to a new machine for their daily, as the main piece of their personal tech stack. And it's been an iPad instead of having anything at all. And I'm not trying to harsh on the Air. This is my work computer. It's a 13-inch Air, and I do everything I need to do on it all day, every day, including this morning when everything caught fire, and it's never flinched. M1 Air, happy with it. I'm not trying to besmirch the good name of the MacBook Air product line. I'm just confused how Air and 15-inch go together, because remember, I think when they made the 13-inch Air, it was like an act of revolution at that point. And I know times have changed and all of that, but it's just a very confusing thing. Like, it could have just been a MacBook. It could have, to keep it separate from the Pro, it didn't have to be an Air. It could have just been a MacBook.
Eric, I want Eric in because he represents the education market, and I thought it was interesting that they specifically mentioned an education price for this machine. So, Eric and Brian, I'm sorry, I'm saying it's been a long day. But so does this? I mean, is this? It's not cheap enough to be to deploy to all the students, but is this a machine that educators want and will flock to? Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Eric was going first. My apologies.
Well, whatever.
I know for me, I could see this as a laptop that's provided to staff members. I think mostly for students, it would be definitely something that would be more of the smaller 13-inch model. That would be more for the students. That's kind of the setup that we have right now at our school. We use, for what it's worth, we're on Windows platform, but I could see, definitely going with the cheaper model, smaller screen for students, and the 15-inch model for staff members.
MacVoices is supported by Kolide at kolide.com/MacVoices. Clicking on the wrong link can cause you plenty of headaches if it's just you. But if it's your company, the possibility of clicking a wrong link is multiplied by the number of users, right along with the headaches. Your users don't mean to create a problem, but they have other things on their priority list. That's why Kolide works so well for Okta users. You can get your entire fleet to 100% compliance. If a device isn't compliant, and tries to log in, it can't. The user is provided with the information on what needs to be done. If they do it, great. If not, they're blocked. Immediate, helpful device compliance that secures your company. Without Kolide, there's nothing to stop an unsecure device. With Kolide, unsecure devices don't have a chance to cause issues. And this is all built to work seamlessly with Okta. Zero trust architecture and 100% device compliance. That means fewer support tickets and less frustration all around. Just what the doctor ordered. Visit kolide.com/MacVoices to learn more or book a demo. That's Kolide, KOLIDE.com/MacVoices. Kolide.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Kolide for supporting MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/MacVoices16 and use the code MacVoices16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. I'm busy. No, really busy. You're busy. No, really busy, right? Need dinner ready, like now? Look for quick and easy recipes on the HelloFresh menu, including fast and fresh options ready in just 15 minutes or less. This summer, spend less time meal planning and prepping with HelloFresh's pre-proportioned ingredients that make it easy to get cooking quick. HelloFresh is your recipe for success. From foolproof instructions to high-quality proteins and veggies, HelloFresh brings out your inner chef with every tasty, easy-to-prepare meal. And my inner chef can use all the help he can get. Go to HelloFresh.com/MacVoices16 and use the code MacVoices16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. That's HelloFresh.com/MacVoices16 and the code MacVoices16 to score 16 free meals plus free shipping. Find out just how convenient and just plain good HelloFresh is. Thanks to HelloFresh for supporting MacVoices.
Well, I can also say, I can kind of speak on the education side because my spouse is a teacher, that the fact that all these kids have Chromebooks, I think this is going to be a very attractive thing to the education industry as a whole. They're going to see now, even if they get the M1 MacBook Air for $999, they'll probably get a lesser price than that for it. That's a great base model, and have a Mac and have a better experience than what they're doing now with Chromebooks.
Yeah.
The silence of the Air for a lot of users is the critical. They need it not to make any noise. And the compromises on the original Air to make it super slow so that it was quiet, it made it unusable. But the current Airs, the 13-inch M1, the M2, the new 15-inch, all of them are silent. They all work really well for people. So yeah, it's a perfectly usable, useful machine, and we've been buying them, and we'll, the 15s.
I would add one more thing too. Just thinking about one of the benefits is the battery life, and how much, just throughout the whole entire day of using this machine over and over again. We have so many students who bring their computers back and forth, and oftentimes they'll leave their charger at home, and then they'll need to plug in at school and it's a matter of, those are hot commodities, those chargers. And to have 5 students who need a charger and there's only 2 or 3 chargers available, it's playing a game of, okay, who gets to charge first? You get to a reasonable level. Okay, switch it out, swap it with somebody else. Having this extended battery life, that's a game changer, really.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How about let's jump? We're starting to run short on the designated time, as be that whatever it is. How about the changes to coming to iOS? I mean, I personally thought there were a lot of things there that I was really excited over that actually solve an issue. Maybe it's not something I fully recognize as a problem, but it definitely is something that I'm like, wow, that's something I will use.
Give us an example or two, please.
The first one that comes to mind is the live voicemail.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I mean, in a
great.
world where I don't answer the phone anymore if I don't recognize the number, and I inevitably have to call people back because of it. This is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that did stand out for me. The other thing too is always the issue when someone calls you on FaceTime and then it says not available. Now you can actually leave a message, and that can be a video message too. So I think that's going to improve the experience with FaceTime. The other stuff was kind of fun, like the live stickers and the contact posters. It was all fun stuff, but I mean, that's just kind of expecting it. It was also interesting that they're dropping the hey on the S Lady. That I think that's, but it's still S Lady's still not going to go work as well as it should. But I guess it's one less thing you have to say. But then it's also one more thing that could happen if you do say it, and that's why we can't even say S unless it's S Lady as is now, because it'll trigger it. So that I think that's another thing that kind of stood out when it comes to some of the changes. The messages too. I mean, messages in itself, have all your apps in one place that you use the most. The letting your friend know you arrived safely, catching up and swipe to reply. The search filters, that was another really big thing. I think the search filters that they added in messages is going to be something that really is going to be an improvement. All of us probably mostly live in messages these days. And anytime you remember, oh yeah, I remember that message that I talked about, and try to find a search for it. It was always a challenge. So good to see some of those improvements there. And then they're looking to give the three core things that we've been using all the time: the phone, messages, and FaceTime, to put some focus on that finally, because it's been a long time since they had made some changes to those. So I thought that was something really good.
I think this kind of felt like a snow leopard year. Maybe not so much in terms of bug fixes, although hopefully that too. But in terms of features, like rather than going for like these big, huge blockbuster features, there's just like dozens and dozens of like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's neat. And there's so many, I can't even remember them, but I just remember over and over going like, yes, wow, I can't believe that, they're actually working on that. Oh, right. Yeah. And the State of the Union, which was for developers this afternoon, was really the same thing. No big blockbusters, but tons of, I just, know up in Cupertino, there was lots of cheering, and on Mastodon and whatnot, developers are real happy.
Mm-hmm. I was watching some of it, and boy, you were right. They're just boom, 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 and just get through this stuff, and there's a ton of stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
and good stuff. I remember a year or two ago, and it was like the State of the Union was only like an hour and 15 minutes and nothing. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Mark, one other feature, and it's a little thing, but that's kind of what I mean, is that stuff I will use is standby.
Yes.
I mean, read my mind. I was looking at it to talk about here.
Yeah. I mean, I've got an app that I run every night that puts a clock on my screen, and I have it in landscape orientation. And now I don't need that app. Now I've got this. And if I wanted to, it can provide a whole lot more information, or it can just have your basic, in this image I'm looking at, 9:41, Monday the 5th, 76 degrees. That's about all I really need to know.
Yeah. I saw that, and then they made the comment, we want to make ways that you can use your iPhone even when you're not holding it, when it's just lying down. So I think this is, to me, quintessential Apple, incrementally adding new ways and new value to their product, so that, their ecosystem and their devices become ever and ever and ever more appealing. And I mean, we kind of have had that with the Apple Watch. And now we can do similar things with the Apple phone. Plus, as you were saying, Chuck, you can have other devices and other widgets out there. Oh, the other thing I would observe, it seems like we've come 360 degrees from widgets used to be fine, and then they got deprecated, and now they're coming back on all devices.
Yeah,
you can't kill a good idea. I do kind of feel like,
yeah.
I do kind of feel like, I don't feel like this is quintessential Apple, although your watch example is somewhat, but I feel like in the past, so often Apple, like they come out with some splashy new feature and they're like, woo! And then it's like they never do another thing with it ever. You know, it's like they don't fix bugs. They don't make minor tweaks to it. And, you know, it's like they just move the whole team to something else and it's abandonware. And
Jim, I agree. That's quintessential Apple.
Yeah, but
we're
this year,
seeing the start of the cycle.
But this year, it feels like, oh, somebody went in and looked in and said, let's go back and, you know, actually fix up and do a bunch of these little usability things that you're always like, why doesn't Apple just do this little tweak that drives me nuts, you know, over and over again? Kelly, I'm wrong.
I'm shaking my head only because they didn't fix the thing in Messages that has officially now driven me up a wall for more than 1 year. It has been many. And that is, why does everything have to be a speech balloon that takes up a bunch of space? Like, I understand it so that you can sell me a 12-inch phone that won't fit in my pocket. But the fact remains, all of those take up a whole bunch of space and they don't have to. It could be a little block and a little block. Just take the little thing off. You want to talk about a little thing that it bugs me? It's the little speech balloony part. One is blue and one is not. And one is green and one is not. And, you know, that's between you and your Lord. But the difference is, like, you could be saving so much space, and especially for people who are zoomed in a little bit and maybe using something a little larger than the system default, all you are doing is wasting that space that those people could be using to get a little bit more text on that massive screen. Like, everybody's going to have to hover around an iPad mini with a cell phone plan in order to be able to read messages at some point. And it's just so frustrating that they can't do anything to even give you the option to make that a little bit more compact, a little bit refined, a little bit better. Because the little things that I see, once again, no, Kelly, just you, are things like that. Or let me change the highlighting color in Notes. What if I don't want everything to be gold? What if I don't? Like, could it be not gold? Apparently that's, you know, really
Kelly,
thinking. But yeah,
your original thing is you just identified why they came out with a 15-inch MacBook Air.
I never said there was anything wrong with it being a 15-inch machine. I'm not mad about the computer. The computer is awesome.
If I could spoil things for a second, you can actually have like a 10-foot messages window now if you get the Apple Vision Pro. So, you know,
if I want to strap it to my head, yeah.
Okay, and so we're gonna use that as a segue over, because that's exactly where we want to go, and we're already there's no way to control this group.
I just want to say one tiny little thing, which is what I noticed in a lot of the stuff that was new. Like, here's a new thing on the iPad, or here's a new thing on the Mac, or here's a new thing on the phone. Is that it's not so much that it's new as that it was new to that platform. It was like they did musical chairs and a bunch of people on the watch team went, you know what's awesome on the watch is nightstand mode. Maybe we should do that to your phone. Or widgets are really awesome on your phone. Maybe they should be on your computer. And that's what I noticed a lot in this particular keynote, was the things that are new to each platform aren't new to Apple users. They're just new to that one segment. That was all.
But that's not a bad thing.
I didn't say it was a bad thing. That was the thing I noticed.
Yeah, if each system is learning from the other, and they're observing how people use the different devices, you know, then great. I don't want every feature on my Mac. Yeah, I don't want every feature on my Mac on my watch or on my phone. You know, I want what's appropriate there.
Yeah. So. It was just nice to see. It was like some people on one team actually used some of the devices from the other teams and went, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe we should do that too. It was kind of an overall thing that I noticed. That was one of the two things that I overall that struck me about the keynote. Yeah. That was it.
Okay, so Webb is very, very quiet. So I want to give him first shot at the Vision Pro. He pulls his mic down very
yeah. First of all, looking at Mark's background, I just don't know where the first gen Apple Vision is going to end up, whether it's going to be on the trash heap of history or whether it's going to be the groundbreaker. It's interesting, and the approach that Apple's taken, I think, is very unique. It's the first generation. It's very expensive. I think that hurts it a lot, but I think that's what they're trying to do. Is it's really more of a developmental type device, if you will, if you'll allow me to use that phrase. I think it's neat. One of the things I've heard is that nobody's really come out with the killer app yet. I don't know what that would be. My days of killer app goes back to Aldus and desktop publishing. That was the killer app, but that was the killer app for the laser printer, and really kind of justify that. So anyway, it's interesting. I want to try it. I don't plan on buying one. I've said that many times before and ended up doing something. But, yeah. So anyway,
I have two, one for work and one for personal. I'm just curious.
Well, if I get one for work, that means someone else is paying for it. So
can I just point out that a Pro XDR display is $5,000, and this is only $3,500.
So you're going to get two of them, Chuck?
And it fits in my bag.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel like, frankly, when they started going through this, and I'm glad they didn't put the price up front. Of course, they never do. But by the time that the presentation was finished, I feel like Meta, the guys over at Meta had to be crawling in a hole somewhere and saying, yeah, we should never have brought this up, because they've just been completely outclassed. Of course, $500 versus $3,500. Yeah, you're going to be able to do a lot more. But the attention to detail, the attention to all the little issues that come with having something wrapping around your face, and them trying to make that as transparent, sorry for the pun there, as possible. I felt like I was very pleasantly surprised, and the $3,500 didn't bother me. Doesn't mean I'll buy one. I too want to try it out first and get an idea of just how useful it could be. But I thought it was. I
wonder if the R&D for this is more than what R&D for the car would be. I'm seriously thinking that, after watching the portion of the State of the Union where they talked about all the technology and the different APIs and whatnot. Clearly, this is sort of a moonshot thing. Now, whether they'll make that back, I think it's an amazing, ambitious, it's really cool, but how big the market's going to be outside of the cost, even, I just wonder how many people are going to want to have this thing on their face for hours on end.
Well, the battery only lasts 2 hours if you're lucky. So,
well, you can plug it in though.
Yes.
And I think they'll mostly be used plugged in. That's what's going to wind up being the case.
Ben, you were waving your arm.
Yeah. When people talk about the killer app, the killer app is adaptability. It can be your TV. It can be that super display for your Mac. It can be your communications device. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Are you
and
getting
eventually
it?
This
That's good.
If I win the lottery, if it's your TV, do you live alone, Ben? I don't know, but
yes.
Okay, so it could be your TV, but in most households, are you going to buy 4 of them or 5 of them or however many? This is a one user thing, and I think that's one of the problems with it is people tend to work in groups, and an awful lot of what they were talking about were entertainment. You know, they didn't really have any application of like, here's how you can make money with this, and none.
Oh, wait a minute, Jim. I don't know if I agree with that.
I'm not saying no one will make money with it, but they didn't show any.
No, but I meant the entertainment versus productivity. I mean, I for one love the idea of having screens all through my field of vision, and having multiple screens and that basically right now would be windows on our Mac, but being able to have those open as large as I want or as small as I want and have lots of them.
We'll see how that really looks, and how, and also having that over your face for 8 hours a day, maybe. But the other thing, one thing I was wondering about is, okay, it's covering your eyes, so no one else can see what you're seeing in at least in the room with you, right? But apparently they'll be able to hear what you're hearing, which I thought was really a strange thing. Because
really, I mean, is that any louder than what you're listening to if you have a set of AirPods in?
But AirPods, exactly. AirPods are in. This is not in. It's, I have a headset like this. It's called the Monster Boomerang, and it does the same thing. It's great for me, but it's for going for a walk or something. But other people can hear it, that are a few feet from me. And conversely, you'll be able to hear anything in the room. So if there were other people talking, that's going to interfere with you. So I don't know. Eric and I were having a conversation earlier. We had a pre-show, and it was like, well, maybe they can make it work with AirPods. So that seems like something they could easily do, and might be a good thing for that kind of situation. Yeah. But I do think if you have 5 people in a room or more than one, it's A, expensive, and B, what's it going to be like?
Yeah, Brian.
So I just switched my background to an image about, I think it's 2015. I had lunch with Frederick Johnson, and he had the Google, thing, and he gave it to me, and I put it on, and couldn't quite get it to work, but I had a professional photographer take my image with that, and that's like 8 years ago in terms of evolution of these devices. And that thing basically only would give you little, data prompts, but we'll have to see. I'm excited by this device. I'm excited where its future could be. I could see this in 2 to 4 years getting down to a $1,200 or $1,500 price point. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, I was just going to mention. I thought the same thing when I was looking at it, and I said, everyone around you is going to be able to hear what you're hearing and experiencing. But they had the demo video, and I was watching it, and there was a segment that a person was using it on an airplane, and looking at their ears. In that particular instance, they had AirPods in their ears. So I figured that, similarly, if we're using our Macs or our iPhones and we put in our AirPods, that sound transfers to that instead of the external speakers.
Yeah. In the chat room, David says, not our David, but another David says, the killer app is Presence. FaceTime likely to be that for a bunch of people, in his opinion. So I don't know. Interesting. The one other thing, though, that I was kind of surprised, and then they hit you, with 5 different punches after that, and you sort of lost it. This is the Apple Vision Pro, implying that there at some point will be maybe an Apple Vision or an Apple Vision SE or Air. An Apple Vision Mini or Air or something. So this price point might be a starting point, but it may go in both directions, go down and up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I'll let you go in a second, Dave. But then, Jim, to your point, then this may become a lot more a lot more palatable to folks. But the other point that was raised in a podcast I was on this afternoon is when the 3D craze was out there, people were still sitting in the same room, but they had to put glasses on.
Oh, it's ridiculous glasses.
Yeah, I mean, and not nearly the quality of what we would expect to see with this. So, yeah. David, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I wanted to bring another point about the commitment to this device is Disney. I was very surprised to see Bob Iger come out on stage and said, it's Disney's 100th year, and he said they're fully committed to this, and they're partnering with Apple to do all the entertainment. Obviously Disney's a big thing, and then Disney Plus is going to be on the device on day one, so they're fully committing to this entertainment. And if Disney's going to do that, you can guarantee the other entertainment companies are going to follow suit and want to get in on this. So there's another angle to this device too.
Yeah.
I found it really interesting that the first, it felt like 10, 15 minutes. I don't know what it actually was in real time. Felt like it was, so were you doing any virtual reality? Is this only augmented? To the point where I wasn't sure if it was actually see-through or pass-through. It's pass-through. It was very obvious later. Right. And my brother is an AR developer, and he's pretty wary about using anything that isn't see-through, in case there's any delay or lack of precision for the particular type of development they do. Mm-hmm. They have high-end clients who need precision. That's why they use this tool, even though it's a fairly easy port, because they already have an iPhone app, or it's in beta. I've played with it, but yeah. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting knowing the only professional that I know who is in the market for one of these, for a professional reason, may not choose to go with it.
So I have a very important point to make, and it got only maybe 12 seconds of screen time. They mentioned when they're talking about their lens system, they mentioned, and we have this thing with Zeiss, so we can have, optical corrective lenses that you can drop in. Mm-hmm. And bingo, I think that's for, 2/3 of the population who need, image correction for either, glasses or contacts. I think that, that really needs to be played up when this device launches for real late this year or probably early next year.
And also the population that can afford this device is probably approaching 100% needing vision correction.
Good point.
It just, unfortunately, we had a keynote that was stuffed full of so many things, and there are a dozen questions you'd like to ask about each one of the features, enhancements, products, and that's why I said we're not going to dig into this too deep, on these first couple MacVoices live sessions, because we'll be talking about this for a long time. As far as I know, and somebody correct me on this, but the MacBook Air ships, I think,
next week. And the Mac Pro too.
Yeah, all the Pros.
The Mac Pro and the Studio.
And the Studio. Yes. All the products are going to be ordered today and they ship next week.
Yeah, but I think those are the only. Everything else we're going to be talking about for a long time before.
Their glasses won't be until next year sometime.
Yeah, glasses are next year. Yeah.
Key question: did anyone here? Did they say anything at all about how much this product will weigh?
The specs are on there on the site.
No, I went and I searched. I went through it a fine-tooth comb, and I searched for weight or grams or pounds or other thing. Absolutely nothing in terms of their press release.
That's a great point.
I don't recall hearing it during the video. I haven't had a chance to go back to it, but I'm just wondering if anyone else here heard anything about that.
Nope.
I spent a lot of time of the design and connection and technology. I have the video playing. I'm just scanning through to see if it pops up quickly here, but no, I don't remember them saying it.
I don't think the device is quite final yet.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's why they wouldn't say it.
Which you would kind of expect.
I think they must have a pretty good idea how much it's going to weigh.
Oh, it could change.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think substantially. Clearly they've gotten really far. They have units. People are using them.
Yeah. Webb, I saw you pull your mic down, which usually.
Oh,
means you have
I was
something to
just
say.
going to say that the weight is important. The external battery pack is, I think that was designed to try to decrease the weight hanging off your face.
All right.
So I think that there's something there. I want to see it. I want to play with it, see if I like it.
Right.
I think it's exciting. There are a couple of things that it's driven by the M2 and also the new chip, the R1. Not exactly sure what that is. But one of the things that, and I don't want to backtrack, one of the things that has really impressed me about the whole M series of processors going back is the battery life and how they have really extended and it continues to. We all talked. I have the same M1 MacBook Pro. Just love it, and the battery life is incredible. At least I'm impressed with it. So anyway,
me too.
Anyway, the processors that they're putting in are interesting. And I just saw a little bit of it on the video for the Apple Vision was is it a eyeball authentication? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, it was retina.
I thought that was interesting. So anyway.
That's science fiction stuff that we've been seeing for years, and now all of a sudden here it is built into these. What are we calling them? They're not. Are they goggles?
Headset,
Headset, isn't it?
Apple
I don't know.
Vision. It's Apple Vision.
Just Apple Vision.
Yeah. We'll create a new thing like Xerox or Kleenex. New word.
Well, they created something new, spatial computing.
Mm-hmm.
That was new. And I kind of like that because that really seemed to fit what they were showing you could do with it. One other thing that we haven't touched on at all that I think is brilliant, and I said it this afternoon, so if you saw that, forgive me, but none of this arm waving stuff of Minority Report. It's just you have your arm resting on the sofa and you just click you tap your fingers together,
you were just doing this.
flick. Yeah.
Well, I think that depends on the software. From what I saw in the State of the Union, it sounds like you certainly could make, and there were places weren't they dragging the side, grabbing the side and changing the size? That was Minority Report-ish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it just didn't feel like that was the main part of the interface. Now, again, this is we're working off a demo video, so who's to say? But at the same time, Minority Report was just Cruz was whipping things all over the place, and this just felt felt a lot.
That was a movie.
More reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelly?
Question.
Jim.
Question. From what I've seen or from what I've read, limited what I've read, is no journalists were actually able to wear the device.
Yeah.
Look and gawk at it, from afar, sort of like the original iPhone back in its day. Does anyone know? Did any journalists, get a chance to look at it?
I thought Joanna Stern was able to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see their favorite supporters have had access.
And Robin Roberts is interviewing Tim Cook tomorrow morning on GMA, Good Morning America, and they're saying that she's going to try it on and comment on it too. But it's very limited.
That's a Disney subsidiary. That makes sense.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I saw some posts on Mastodon hinting that there was an undisclosed, Apple said, there's an event Monday night. And I thought I saw something that said that's going to be developers getting to try out the headset.
And they did announce there will be a developer's kit available, but also that there will be centers or something, places you can go and check it out for yourself was kind of how the impression that I was getting from the wording in the announcement.
They
So
at the
it's
State of the
like-
Union, there's six cities around the world where they're going to have centers that developers can go.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
then apparently some developers are. They didn't mention it in the video. They only said there are places you can go, and they left the impression I was left with was you weren't going to, they weren't going to give developers any. But later I saw online that apparently they are going to, like, you can apply. And
Jim, did they say when that will be available?
Soon.
the sessions, being able to go to the center.
The demo. The demo and the sensor.
Later this summer.
Okay.
There's still a long way.
So one of
no
them.
date yet.
There's a long way to go with this.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But also, I mean, just to repeat myself from earlier, they just blew Meta right out of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, Meta's thing
100%.
looks like a toy now at best,
100%.
and not even a nice toy.
But it's a toy you could afford to give somebody.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but nobody's going to want it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No,
Well, then it'll
actually,
can't afford to
its
give the
sales
very
will
best.
go up because of this.
One of in Cupertino, maybe.
Sales will go up. They don't have
for
3,500
the Quest 3.
I can buy
Oh,
this
that
one.
looks cool. What can I actually get?
Yeah, it's that.
Well,
But,
if you want a toy, you can
Kindle
buy a
sale-
toy.
Kindle sales tick up when there's a new iPad. Like there's always, Apple's doing two things. First of all, they're increasing the market. And then, first of all, they're doing what they can do to sell more of their own stuff. But another thing that they're doing is also making other people aware that maybe that particular thing is a market that people could be interested in. Finding out that you can get an iPad, an iPad that's $500, like that might not be for you, but maybe a Kindle, you look at a Kindle Fire and it's got all your Kindle books, but also you can do your email on it. That might be appealing to some people. Like they're also just making the market wider by expanding awareness of things like, there is a reasonable thing that you can put on your head that doesn't cost as much as the new Mac Pro, and that might make a difference. I mean, my big takeaway from the whole headset thing, my two big takeaways are, now we can listen to people talk about a different rumor. Hallelujah. And how excited Tim Cook was because it was written all over his face. And for a man who is the pinnacle of composure and buttoned up, go back and watch him say one more thing. And he gets to say it and mean it. And it's outstanding. And that little tiny little moment of like, you can almost hear that, like the squeeing was implied and it was like right below the surface. And if you go back and watch really, really close, you can see written all over his face. And it just made me wonder like how many takes they had to do to get him toned down that far, because who in the world, how many people in the world get to say one more thing and mean it in its original form, in its original place, in its origin state? Like that moment was like my biggest takeaway. Because what I'm really going to do is wait until Brittany gets to hang out with her brother and find out the real deal about all of this from somebody who's been living and breathing AR and VR for a long time already, and find out what he's got to say about it, because that's going to be a very interesting conversation, getting to see what people who are already in that space have to say about it once they've had a little time to look at what the development tools look like, how you can build things for it. It's going to be interesting to see, obviously, what James Thompson's going to do with his dice, what James Thompson's going to do with his calculator. We know this to be true. But additionally, like not just seeing stuff that we already know ported to this new headset, people who are already in the headset space and what they have to say about what this looks like, how it stacks up, and putting that in the context of the other things that are available is the part I'm really looking forward to finding out more about.
we're pretty much at time, but there's one piece that we haven't touched on at all that I think is just so important, especially when you start talking about it in comparison to the Meta device, and that is the focus on privacy. Yeah. That they took the time in this demo reel with all the other sizzle to specifically point out that we're not tracking where you're looking. We're not so there's no invasion of privacy as to what part of the image you're focusing on first. The only thing they're recording is what you've settled on to advance or click or whatever they're going to call it. And I thought that listen, we always bring up science fiction things on this show, right? Does anybody remember a movie called Looker?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go back if. Okay, go back, because that particular movie, I'm not going to spoil any of it, but it did address the issue of eye tracking. And just, now, look, I get it. It was science fiction, but there's a lot of reality to that going on now. And of course, that was, it taken to an extreme, and oh my God, the world's going to end. But it is something that if Meta is strapping something on my face and then they're going to track it, everything I look at, if Eric's picture comes up, I'm going to pick on Eric because it's easy. Okay, am I going to look? Let's see, what T-shirt does he have on, or what's that blossom behind him, or what's that big green thing hanging over, or am I looking at Eric? That's information that somebody's going to monetize in some way, sometime, and Apple is saying not on our platform. Mm-hmm. Did anybody else think that was really interesting? That they even brought it up?
Agree. I agree with you.
Well, certainly not surprising, but it was, cool to see that, they're definitely thinking about it from the start. And they had several times, not just on this, but also on some of the, new features on the other platforms where they had that little icon with the apple and the leaf flipped around and became a lock.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's all the way through through almost every new app, that they discussed, privacy built in.
And pointing out a lot of on-device, what things are on-device or not. And, your phone is doing this for you, your iPad is doing this for you, instead of sending it off somewhere to have it processed and then returned to you. Like, this all happens right there on the thing in your hand.
That's so privacy has become the new thinner, lighter, more powerful marketing catchphrase.
Yeah.
Well, maybe so, but there's no way you're going to convince me that Meta did not have those conversations about, hey, if we can get people to strap this thing on, we have new information that we can sell.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
They're a data broker.
That's one of the things that, there is a lot of tracking, that if you're reading something and you're scrolling your cursor down, all of that gets fed back. So, pages can be optimized and they can judge, this person spent more time on this part of this paragraph. We were talking about this versus that. So it absolutely is, important. And glad Apple launched it, right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm. I just hope more is made of it, Mark, so that people are aware, because would be very easy to overlook this early in a technology.
But again, this audience is a little bit different. Most people value free and will give up all sorts of information for free rather than spending money. So,
and that's why the Meta headset is $500.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be fair about it too. Because I know I participated, and I think probably just about everybody here participated at some point with the social media check-ins, back when we didn't understand what was being done with the data. So we would happily announce where we were all the time. We'd, go to our favorite pizza place, or, check into Disney World, or, a Holiday Inn somewhere or something. And, I was given some pathetic little points and meanwhile, somebody's making money off the back end. And so, now we are a bit more savvy, but there's still people that don't understand this stuff and don't think about it until after the fact, after it's gone. Sorry, I got preachy there for a minute. So I want to thank you all for the time, and I want to make sure that you all know you're invited back tomorrow night to do this again. We'll obviously have different kinds of conversations about different aspects of it. There's so much in this keynote to discuss. I think if I remember correctly, some of you said you couldn't make it tomorrow, but some other folks said they could tomorrow. So 8 p.m. If you're listening live, please join us 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're going to have the same basic topic as the keynote, but hopefully with different insights, and we'll focus on some other things. Join us in the chat room. Let us know what you think, or hit me up on Twitter or Mastodon or Facebook and let me know what you think about the announcements and maybe what you'd like to hear us talk about tomorrow night. Jim Rea, Brittany Smith, pardon me, Ben Roethig, Eric Bolden, Webb Bixby, Mark Fuccio, Kelly Guimont, Brian Flanagan-Arthurs, David Ginsburg. Thank you so much for doing this tonight, this special edition of MacVoices Live. We will see you all tomorrow night. Thanks for watching. Again, just a quick reminder that if you're seeing this or hearing this before June 6th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are, please join us in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV for the second half of our WWDC Keynote panel. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.